Now I want to talk a little bit about how skyscrapers interact with their surrounding environment. At their best, skyscrapers can be beautiful additions to cities. Take a look at how pretty a city skyline can look. The city skyline of Manhattan, for instance, is beloved all around the world. Tourists travel from thousands of miles just to see it. But at their worst, cities can become crowded, dirty places. In the early half of last century, cities were really struggling. In some cities, smog and air pollution had become particularly bad. In this video, air pollution in London from cars and from factories had settled over the city. Even in the middle of the day, people had to use candles and flashlights to get around. Air pollution is still a big problem around the world. In many cities in China, it's not safe to go out during the day because of the air pollution. Unfortunately, skyscrapers can help make pollution worse and make the environment worse. Let's say you have a very large skyscraper that has 1,000 different offices in it. Well, every day those workers in those offices need to get to work. That can mean thousands of people driving into the city just to use that one skyscraper. And all those cars can cause a lot of air pollution. Skyscrapers also use enormous amounts of materials that can hurt the environment. As we'll see in a video in a little while, some architects are attempting to use different materials in the construction of their buildings. Also, city planners are doing more and more to encourage people not to drive their cars into the city. By building trains and using buses and other types of transportation, cities can lessen the amount of air pollution that is caused by all of those cars. The right amount of skyscrapers can make a city a beautiful place, but too many in too small an area can make a city feel very crowded. For instance, if you have a wall of skyscrapers on two sides of a street, it can cause something called a wind tunnel. The wind can get trapped between the rows of skyscrapers and make the street very windy and blustery. Cities also need a mix of buildings and parkland to be enjoyable. 100 years or more, many cities had gotten to the point where they were extremely crowded. As you can see in these videos, some of these cities had gotten to a point where everything just seemed to be concrete and buildings and very little grass or parkland. For children who were growing up in these cities, they might go months and months without experiencing any nature at all. Some cities saw that they needed to add more nature to their environment, and so they started to build parkland. In New York City, as people started to move north up the island, the city reserved an enormous amount of space for a new park that they named Central Park. Central Park includes nature walks and baseball fields and pools and fountains, all right there in the city. Now New Yorkers who lived near the park had a place to play. The best cities have parks all over the place so that people can enjoy nature along with the urban environment that they're in. For instance, here's an area of downtown Boston called Post Office Square. For many years there was a large parking garage in the middle of Post Office Square. Not very pretty. Then the city tore down the parking garage, put it under the ground, and built a nice little park in between all of those skyscrapers. During lunchtime, many of the people who work in those skyscrapers come down and have a picnic lunch in the park. Boston actually built a series of parks all throughout the city that link together. And in many cities, skyscrapers have added rooftop gardens to the top of the buildings, thereby giving the city just a little touch of green. Now I want you to watch this short video about skyscrapers in Singapore and Canada. In those cities, people have found ways to make skyscrapers more environmentally friendly.
Architects are building wooden skyscrapers and transforming high-rises into living gardens. And these designs could go a long way in improving how we live in the future. Skyscrapers are symbols of modern ambition. They're enormous, powerful structures that offer the one-two punch of space and bragging rights. But the race to be the tallest is fueled by steel and concrete, two materials that account for an estimated 16% of global fossil fuel consumption. Two countries in particular, Singapore and Canada, are attempting to transform the urban skyline. In Singapore, engineering firms like Woha are coating their buildings with lush, native plants.
To deal with high densities in cities, particularly Singapore, where we are land limited, it is actually important to bring landscape, greenery, and nature very close to where people live and interact. It is how we connect people back with nature.
Aside from the aesthetics of this building, these towers of green are also helping to bring biodiversity back to our urban centers. Because this building has vertical gardens integrated into its design, it actually contains 1,000% more plant life than could have existed on the original plot of land. And having buildings that integrate nature in this way within our dense cities could have a measurable impact on quality of life and the quality of the environment. Some of us may have experienced New York in the summertime. One of the reasons why we get a heat buildup in cities like this is a process known as insolation. When the sun hits a concrete skyscraper, heat is stored within the building and then re-radiated back into the environment, causing the air temperature to rise. However, when Woha designed the Oasia Hotel, they used plants to combat this problem.
So in our projects, we have always tried to aim for more than 100% green replacement. We need to find plants that can handle not just the wind, but also need to be quite hardy. In a tropical high-rise building, skyscraper, when you're elevated, you actually get nice breezes and nice wind, and that actually makes it very comfortable.
Buildings like these are forging a new way to think about how we should live in urban areas.
There's no reason why I think when we have high density in the city that we should forget about gardens, parks, and nature.
As you can see, skyscrapers don't have to be the enemy of the environment. I want you to think about how your skyscraper will be environmentally friendly and interact with the environment around it. I'd like you to try to finish the third box on your skyscraper poster right now. You could talk here about parks and plazas, you could talk about rooftop gardens, the materials that your skyscraper will use, or how your workers will get to your skyscraper. Speaking of your poster, we're going to work for about 25 minutes on your poster and then on your skyscraper and building. Once you finish a third box, then you can start working on your Lego skyscraper. Any group that finishes their third box by the end of 25 minutes earns 3 bonus points from your teacher. Okay, let's put up 25 minutes and let's begin. I want to talk a little bit about the city that we're building as a group. As you know, we're going to be inviting the parents to come to our last class. And before we show them the individual skyscrapers, we're going to show them the city as a whole. We want our city to look really great. The first things that you're going to get done, obviously, are your skyscraper and your poster. And then your clients have asked you to also construct some kind of other building or structure. But after we finish our posters and our Lego skyscrapers and our building or structure, we could really use your help to make our city look great. For instance, if you look at these cities, you'll notice that the students in these classes made a decision to build some other things as a group. In some cases, students volunteered to work on the roads for their cities. In other cases, they built central parks. Some cities decided to build bridges. Other cities built archways or welcome signs. If your city has an island, you might come up with a plan as to how to use that island. Maybe you want to make it a tourist destination. Maybe you want to build something on it. Maybe you want to leave it for nature. We also talked earlier about the importance of public transportation. Public transportation could include trains or buses or ferries. For instance, if your city decides to build an underground subway, then somebody in your class might work on building the above ground subway entrances. They sometimes look something like this. So we could really use some people's help to work on these different city projects. Now, probably not everybody will have a chance to help with these projects. If it's taking a little longer for you to build your Lego skyscraper or work on your poster, then that's okay. That's the first priority for you to finish. However, if you do finish all of those projects during the next few classes, we might ask for your help to work on the city. So here's the order of work. First your poster, then your Lego skyscraper, then your accompanying building, and then last your work helping the city. Okay, we're going to work for about 20 minutes, and then I want to show you a video about the weirdest and strangest buildings in the world. Let's put up 20 minutes and let's begin. Okay, as I told you before, I want to show you this video about the 10 weirdest buildings in the world. But first, you're going to need an index card and a pencil to vote. Your teacher can put me on pause for a second while your teacher passes out the index cards and pencils. Okay, in this video, they're going to tell you about 10 of the weirdest buildings in the world. Each building has a number, as you'll see. They'll start with number 1, of course. Keep track of the buildings as the video is playing. For instance, if you see number 6 and you think that one is really awesome, then write that down on your index card. You can only vote for one, so at the end you should write down the number of your favorite. Okay, so here are the 10 weirdest buildings.
The 10 most amazing buildings in the world. Number 1 are cubic houses. Located in Rotterdam, Netherlands, these buildings are actually a set of homes designed in the shape of giant cubes. Designed in 1977, these homes are situated over hexagonal pylons, forming what the architect calls a forest of cubes, with the homes themselves representing abstract trees. The homes have 3 floors with a total apartment space of about 100 square meters, but unfortunately, around a quarter of the space is unusable because of the design. 2 is the dancing house. Located in Prague, Czech Republic, is a house designed to look like 2 people dancing. In fact, its former name was Fred and Ginger, named after Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. With just over 4,000 square meters of space, this house was designed in the deconstructivist style in 1992. It was extremely controversial at the time, as it obviously stands out a lot from the rest of the buildings in the area. Its 2 central bodies are supported by 99 concrete panels, each with a different shape and dimension. One of the coolest things about it is that at the top it has a large twisted structure of metal nicknamed the Medusa. Number 3 is the Stone House. Located in the Fath Mountains in northern Portugal is a house that looks like it's straight out of the Flintstones. Built in 1974 between 4 boulders and linked with concrete mix, the home is rumored to be inspired by the original Flintstones cartoon. Just like ordinary homes, it has a front door, a roof, and windows. The house has no electricity, but it has a relatively comfortable interior with a fireplace and even a swimming pool cut out of one of the boulders. 4 is the Crooked Little House. Located in Sopot, Poland, is a house that looks like it's straight out of Alice in Wonderland. Built in 2004, this building is 4,000 square meters and has been called an architectural marvel. Its designers were inspired by the fairy tale illustrations from the books of their childhood. Interestingly, it's designed with the same architecture as the surrounding buildings, just with a warped look. Yet another popular tourist attraction, it's surrounded by restaurants, bars, and shops, and has become the most photographed building in Poland. 5 is Capitol Gate. Located in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, this 53,100 square meter building was given the nickname of the Leaning Tower of Abu Dhabi, and for good reason. Leaning at an incredible 18 degrees, this skyscraper was certified in 2010 by the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's furthest leaning man-made tower. To put that into perspective, the Leaning Tower of Pisa currently leans at just under 4 degrees, meaning that the Capitol Gate has a 4.5 times greater lean. Number 6 is the Piano House. Located in Huainan, China, is a building shaped like a giant glittering grand piano and violin. Constructed in 2007, both the piano and the violin were built on a true 50:1 scale, likely making them the largest 2-scale instruments in the world. The entrance to the building is through the violin, which has stairs and an elevator. Tourists frequent the area, especially at night, when fluorescent lighting outlines the entire building. Surprisingly, it isn't used for anything musical at all. In fact, it's used as a showroom by city planners to show off their designs. 7 is Antilla. Located in Mumbai, India, is a house like no other. Let me repeat that. This massive structure is not a skyscraper, it's a house. The home belongs to the 19th richest man in the world, Indian businessman Mukesh Ambani, whose net worth was estimated at $23.6 billion in 2014. Built in 2010, this 27-story building is the world's first billion-dollar house with a total cost of just under $2 billion. Every single floor has something different, everything from a ballroom to a gym, and is completely decked out with the finest decorations like crystal chandeliers. But here's the kicker, Ambani and his family refuse to move into the building because they're afraid it'll bring them bad luck. Is the Sharp Center for Design. Located in Toronto, Canada, is an incredible building that looks like a giant tabletop. The Sharp Center for Design is an expansion added to the Ontario College for Art and Design in 2004. It consists of a box 4 stories off the ground, supported by multi multicolored pillars at different angles. As a building that sticks out from the rest in the area for obvious reasons, it's received multiple awards for its unique design. Number 9 is the Kansas City Library. Located in Kansas City, United States, is a building that's known as one of the most unique in the world. The exterior of the building features a community bookshelf designed to showcase the spines of 22 books as selected by the citizens of Kansas City. Each book spine is about 8 meters by 3 meters. The bookshelf, built in 2004, features the titles of real books, including Romeo and Juliet, Lord of the Rings, and To Kill a Mockingbird. This is a very cool building. I especially like the community participation part of the construction. Number 10, the Crazy House. Located in Dalat, Vietnam, is a building described by its designer as a fairy tale house. This expressionist building's overall design resembles a giant tree with other elements of nature such as animals, spiderwebs, caves, and mushrooms. Opened in 1990, this 5-story house was inspired by the natural environment around Dalat. It's just as amazing inside with handcrafted pieces of furniture in bizarre shapes. It's popular with tourists who can spend up to $63 a night to stay in the house.
Those were really weird, huh? I want you to write down the number of the building that was your favorite of all 10. Then you can pass your index card to your teacher and we'll see which building was our class favorite for strangest, weirdest building. After you pass your card to your teacher, you can go back to work on your skyscraper or accompanying building. Remember, here's the order that you should work in. We're going to work on these for the rest of the class today. Let's begin.